Hello and welcome everyone to the show today. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. We're going to talk about how to feel delicious in your body. Isn't that a fun word? Delicious. It really is. And we're going to talk with my dear friend, Allana Pratt, known each other for a very long time. And we're going to talk about the feeling part. Since, this is a podcast, you guys are listening, you're taking it in your brain, and we want to connect that. So before we get to that, though, I do want to invite you, 2 days left. September 5th is the day of the free webinar, the Mind, Body, Soul Method of Manifestation. We're going to use some of the stuff we talk about today, but we're going to go a lot deeper. So if you're interested, it's free. It's 60 minutes. It's 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. You get 4 bonus gifts if you come on the webinar live. It will be recorded, so you'll get the recording, but only those that come on live get the special gifts. If you're interested, go to jjflazanes.com/manifesting. You can also find it, jjflazanes.com/events. Either one will take you there. Again, that's jjflazanes.com/manifesting. So let's talk about today's show. Intimacy expert Allana Pratt is a global media personality and go-to authority for those who have suffered heartbreak and are ready to live unapologetically and attract an open-hearted, ideal relationship. With over 4.5 million views on YouTube and her edgy podcast, Intimate Conversations, this Ivy League grad is here to restore dignity to intimacy, helping people find the thriving relationship they deserve. Welcome to the show, Allana.
Allana Banana is here. I am so grateful. It's so good to be with you. I just remember looking in your beautiful eyes, drinking a glass of wine, getting ready for the fireworks before. So yeah, thank you, my love.
We've been connected for so long, and I've recently moved, which I know that you know, and one of the fun things to find in the move was when you interviewed me on your Sexy Mom Expert radio show.
Oh, Lord, that's like 15 years ago or so, right?
Exactly. It's literally like probably 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Oh, and we look so good, don't we?
We do. We haven't changed a bit.
Not at all.
We look the same as we ever did, but we're better. We're the fine wine that matures and gets more complex as we age. But we look the same as we did when we first went into the bottle. We just have more depth.
That's right. And a glass of wine always makes us look better too. So
this is true. And anyone else drinking wine will look better if you drink it too. So we've been connected and supported each other and watched each other grow in different ways, very different ways, in our evolution and expansion. And, but one of the things that you have always been talking about is intimacy and vulnerability and getting your sexy back, that sexy mom expert, which was again 15 years ago. But it's still, the through line is still there. Maybe the words have changed, but the energy is the same. And so I really, today I'm looking forward to sharing how to feel delicious in your body, because while we're going to hit intimacy and vulnerability, which has to do with feeling delicious in your body, right? Yes. I think that a lot of women out there and men, so don't turn it off, men. And you know what? Even if you're listening and you don't feel good in your body, think about knowing what it's like for a woman to not feel, or to feel disconnected and not feel connected. So this is actually very helpful to everybody. It's helpful in life. It's helpful in parenting. It's helpful in relationships, helpful in the bedroom, and it's even helpful in your business. So learning how to utilize these energies in your life is super powerful. I mean, think of the rich, right? Napoleon Hill talks about sex in business as being like a cornerstone for success. And not that we're saying you should exploit sex, or that's not what we're telling about, the power of what sex brings to the table. And again, this sort of intimacy, vulnerability, connection, conversation. So where do we get started with feeling delicious in your body?
I think we go right back to sweet Napoleon, who did know all those years ago the power, not of like genital copulation. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about the energy. And a lot of us have a misunderstanding that sexual energy is only for bow chicka bow bow. Like that's it. But that's inaccurate, and it's missing out on the breadth of what sexual energy really is. Sexual energy is like creative energy, life force energy, Chi, what is it? The energy that blossoms a flower, spins a planet, right? It gives us the idea of a sexy mom expert or this podcast. Like, where is that alivening, birthing, orgasmic, creative, delicious, like, yeah, that turns me on energy? Well, that's all sexual energy. And unfortunately, we sort of put it over in the closet and we only have it for when we take our clothes off and have copulation. But we can have it 24/7 because it has different flavors. And I'm sure you completely can tap in with this with your own life, and you're just such a spiritual connected woman. Sexual energy is also healing, caring, tender. It's that listening, that safe energy just to be heard without judgment. As I said, it's also this creative, generative energy, a new idea, a new book, a new podcast, right? A new place to live. And it's also bold. Sexual energy, when the heart is open, is like fierce love. It's like, this stops here. This is my truth. This is aligned with my values. It's an enlivening, bold, heart-open stance. And of course, it's erotic and delicious and wild and orgasmic and kinky and anything that's true for you. It's all these things. So if we can think about choosing to never turn off our sexual energy. And granted, we might want to turn it up or turn it down. There can be a dial on it. You don't want to break into orgasmic delight maybe at a funeral or something like this, right? Like there's an appropriateness to it, but you never have to turn it off. And thus, you never turn off the turn on, the aliveness, that innate evolutionary spark that is co-creating with you every moment of your beautiful life. You can be full and feel delicious even when things don't necessarily go your way. And maybe it might not feel like super duper erotic aroused, but it can maybe feel that sexual energy of that care, or you've got your own back, or it's okay that you've gained 40 pounds after the baby. It's okay. It allows us to stay present in our body and with our heart and our soul, and it makes all of life more delicious.
One of the things I love about podcasting in this medium, besides the intimacy that you and I get to have with each other in this conversation and the intimacy of someone listening through their earbuds or even through a speaker, but feeling like they're in on the conversation and they're like overhearing us have a really deep and meaningful conversation, that it utilizes a lot of sort of left brain analytical understanding. And I know for my community, that's one of the reasons why they're attracted to me, because I talk about spiritual things, but I'm also explaining it in that sort of logical, scientific, linear way.
Yeah.
One of the downsides to this medium and downsides to this kind of learning is that even if you're auditory and you love listening and you're all about ideas and thoughts, we're disconnected often from the embodiment of the message.
Yeah.
And so having this conversation today about feeling delicious in your body, feeling today, I just want to emphasize and punctuate feeling.
Yeah.
So I want to go over with you these, how do we embody? Because I could guarantee that while most people, myself included, would agree with you, this is a good thing to do. And a lot of people might even understand what you're talking about. I do, of course, because I've been studying these things too. But some people, maybe it's like a new concept, but they'll hear it and they go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But making sense doesn't make the difference.
Yeah.
We're learning how to be it. We understand it, but we don't live it.
And this is where we tie in the intimacy and the vulnerability with it. And I love that you have punctuated feeling. I just finished watching, I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Thrive. I think Thrive 2 is coming out soon, but I was listening to the gentleman from Heart Math, and he was saying that coherence cannot be attained through thinking. It can only happen through feeling. So we could say coherence is when you've dropped into a place within your heart, a place of appreciation, empathy, kindness to self. We could call it love, and they measure it. And you can't get there through thinking. You can only get there through feeling. So we need to learn how to embody, how to live beneath the chin and get into coherence with our truth, with our feelings, with our heart. Now, the very first time I ever learned I had an inside, like I thought everything was outside. I was like, you got to go accomplish, you got to go achieve, you got to go get, you got to make it happen. Like that's my whole life. And it was coming from fear, because I got to look good. I got to get approval. Like I was totally wired backwards. And then when someone's, slowed me down to start feeling, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Because the feeling I first met was terror. It was just terror. We could call it little Allana inside. We could call it the vibration of energy within my body. We could call it I was incoherent if we measured me in science. But basically, what was going on under the chin was not fun. Most people, when that occurs, I think I'll have an antidepressant. How about a glass of wine? Definitely some porn's going to help with this. Opioid addiction, like all the things that are going on in society, overeating, etc., is all because we have not, at least me, and I think most of society, has not been taught, how do you navigate these intense feelings? Normally, we just stuff them down. It's the best we can do. We put on, at least me, put on a happy face, pretend I'm fine when I'm not, and just go out there and accomplish something else. And all my worth gets miswired that I'm only good enough if I accomplish. I'm only good enough if I'm chosen. I'm only good enough if I have a small ass and a big bank account. But that's not my worth. That's my accomplishment, but that's different. My worth is inside. My worth is inherent. My worth is beneath the chin as I drop in and start to navigate and integrate these feelings. So we can't create or destroy energy. Everybody knows that, right? We can only transform it. So as you meet maybe shame, maybe terror, maybe anger, rage, maybe just like hopelessness and apathy, like whatever is in there, as we go beneath the chin and we start to breathe and feel how we might feel about our body, how we might feel about our sexual expression. And it can go anywhere. It can how we feel about our relationship, our business, our purpose. It could be anything. But as you go inside and start to feel, notice that most of the time, if you haven't been doing a lot of that, you're going to meet unresolved, unintegrated emotions. And while I know if we operated on our body and we opened up our heart, we wouldn't see like little JJ in there, but like, just for the sake of it's fun and it's effective, imagine that there's a little you inside your heart in a dark closet, locked up because, you've thrown them in there. That's what I had done. Anytime my feelings piped up, I would just hit little Allana with a 2x4, give her a concussion, throw her in the closet, lock the door, and then look good. I would abandon her. And over time, that causes shame, more shame. That causes relationships that don't work. That causes, why do I keep attracting emotionally unavailable people? Why can't I trust myself? Why can't I trust life? All of these are some symptoms of when you push away you. And so a lot of this embodiment is about when the emotion comes up, take a totally different approach and instead go lean in. Go, hey, little Allana, hey, little JJ, hey, little one, tell me more. I'm here. I'm sorry for all the years that I made you wrong, rejected you, abandoned you, criticized you, rejected you. I really was just doing my best. I just wanted us to be happy. And I realized that I was making it worse. Please accept my apology. Tell me more. And you begin to form an intimate relationship with yourself and your feelings and your emotions and your body. And then eventually with your deepest truth. And we could say if you go all the way home with the divine. And then something inside really exhales. You're no longer scrambling on the outside to try to grasp for success or approval. You find the safety and the home and the approval on the inside. Now, of course, everybody still would prefer that people approve of us and like us, etc. I'm not saying that I don't want success and all the rest of it. I'm just saying if it doesn't go well, it doesn't take me down. It doesn't take me out anymore because I've got my own back. I'm listening to little you, how she feels about her ass, how she feels about her ex. And then she calms down and quiets down. And we could say the energy shifts. We could measure the vibration on like Hawkins scale of consciousness. The energy will no longer be of sadness or depression or apathy. It might rise a bit into anger. And if we don't push that one away either, we can even hear the anger is saying, hey, this needs to change now. I've had it. I choose something else. This is out of integrity with my values. And you can listen to it. And instead of getting mad at yourself or getting mad at another, you can go, okay, I'm going to take action. And then you can raise up even more in this vibration. And we can be an allowance, which doesn't mean I'm giving up or giving in or just saying fine. It's saying, I'm no longer going to resist and give away my power. I'm going to now finally be at choice. And then we can start asking questions. So what else is possible? What could I choose here? What have I never considered? How is this for me? How is the universe actually got my back in this moment? What's the benefit here that I'm not seeing? And these questions begin to empower us because we're embodying our truth. And then over time, you start to feel confident, kind of for no reason, happier more often than not. People start to say, have you lost 10 pounds? Did you get a facelift, like a new haircut? Like what? You're radiant. It's different than being pretty. Radiance comes from within. And then you start to get magnetic and irresistible for no reason because you're just safe to be around. You're a pleasure to be around because you're not resisting yourself. You're not resisting the moment. You're not resisting them. You're just this warm place of home. It's an intimate relationship now that you can have with the world because you have it with yourself.
And you're also pleasant to be around because you're not needing for anyone else to show up differently for you to feel better. So there's no responsibility being placed outside of you on others that are, victim mentality, blame game. I don't feel comfortable because you do this and I need you to change. No one feels free in that situation. So definitely the embodiment on the inside allows others to be free around you as well because they aren't being asked to be different for you.
Yeah, well said. And your kids, like I just talked with my son last night for over an hour. It was awesome. And halfway through the conversation, he was like, Mom, I love talking to you. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Why? He goes, you just don't judge me. You just ask me great questions. You believe in me. So there's like a safety, even as a mother, you can cultivate with your children when you talk to them like you talk to the little you inside. So when shit hits the fan, we could close our heart, leave our heart, spin up in our head, emasculate our children, make them wrong. Whoa, why did that happen? And try to fix, when all they're looking for is a listener, a safe listener, just to debrief with, to download with, just to be held. And so instead, when they come home and they've got a D, or maybe the police bring them home for you, or, something's happened that's quite intense, you can just be present and not put any pressure on them and just get them. Tell me more. I'm feeling such and such. Got it. What else? And just be this space to drink them in and make them feel so safe, seen, and understood. And then you become the parent that's askable. They tell you when really difficult things show up in their life because you're safe. Same with your lover, and you're making love, or you're wanting to do it a different way. And instead of, why do you do that? Why? That's annoying. Like that immediately shuts them down and cuts them off. And I'm not saying it's not annoying. And I'm not saying what you're saying is inaccurate. I'm just saying the delivery, when it cuts at them, shuts them down, as opposed to opening, because you might be annoyed, or you might be frustrated, or you might be a little scared to ask them what you really want. But if you can first soothe self, go in and lean into that intimate relationship with yourself, feel and imagine saying, maybe in your mind, but to the little one inside, you have every right to desire that. I hear you. I got your back. We got this. So you're kind of soothed and then opened and embodied. Then you can invite. You can use what I call the sandwich, and you can go, I just love making love with you, or just some authentic statement of gratitude and appreciation. And then you can say, what would really turn me on even more? Or you would be my hero or my goddess if you can invite a new behavior. And then the end of the sandwich would be, how does that work for you? What else is possible that you would like to let me know? And all of a sudden you're more connected and more intimate. And then the rapture and the surrender that's possible when you engage in that kind of conversation. So this intimacy, parenthood, sexuality, being on a sales call, it no longer turns into like, I got to close the deal and get them to sign up with me. You connect with their soul. They feel seen and safe. You're creating not just this coaching arrangement or this deal that you're making, this entrepreneurial adventure you're going to take them on. You're changing humanity. You're changing their soul's trajectory because you're that, tapped in, turned on by what's possible working with that person. Yeah, it's a beautiful way to live.
And there's really always a backstory to how you, Allana, have learned this, right? Since all of us have to go through, right? It's the hero's journey that Kelly and I talked about on the show,
Yes.
that we all have the dark night of the soul. We all have that thing that brings us into our next evolution, that ties those pieces together of our life, of our journey, of our expansion in order to teach this. So I want to pause for a second and I want to kind of hear your backstory. I mean, I know some of it, but I don't know all of it, where if you were to say, how did I learn this? How was I challenged in this to get here?
Yeah. Oh, I was totally born this way. Yep, for sure. No, not at all. I won't give you like totally the backstory, sort of like the Reader's Digest version. So I've been married twice. The first marriage was all about me being a damsel in distress, just looking to be chosen, honestly. And it was love, but it was only the degree of love I could feel for myself and for another at that time. So that was about 6 years that ended. Second marriage began when mom was dying of cancer. And so I had decided from the first marriage, I'm not going to be a damsel in distress. No. I'm going to be like a badass woman, very in my masculine energy, heart closed, terrified to lose my mother, checkbook pulse and a good smile. Let's do this. Let's have a kid. Let's get married. Didn't make a good choice. Didn't even check in with my heart, let alone listen to it. And so it was very clear very early on, once my mom had passed and we'd had our child, that this was a very angry man, very upset that I was considering separation, and eventually I chose divorce. And that humiliated him. And based on how his heart was closed too, because we always attract who we're being, right? My closed heart attracted a closed heart. He decided revenge was the way he wanted to get back. And it was a 12 to 14 year custody battle. And my big, beautiful $1 million home gone, $250,000 in savings gone, went into another $250,000 legal debt. I mean, JJ, there was one day when I woke up and my truck wasn't there. And I was like, what happened? I was so behind on my bills. It had been, repossessed. It was just one humiliation after another. And in court, they were making me wrong for my purpose. They were going for the jugular. She's an intimacy expert. She's probably a prostitute. I was like, what? Oh, she thinks she's a coach. She doesn't even have any letters behind her name, Your Honor. She's probably a narcissist. What are coaches? Like, it was just awful. And my child was on the line. They were trying to take him away from me forever. So I was freaking out in survival. I was certainly not grounded. And thus, it didn't go so well. I gave in. I said, fine, you can have 70%. I'll have 30. That's fine. Because at least my son still loved me. And I'm saying it kind of like exaggerated like that to let you know that the gift in this process was I was so concerned with what people thought of me. I wanted to look good so bad. I needed approval so desperately that all of this horrendous treatment and turning my family away, against me, and turning friends against me that would declare in the court battle to the evaluator that I wasn't, wasn't a good mother. Like, it was just, are you effing kidding me? It was horrendous. But at least I had my son's love, so I can get through this and still look good. Nope. One day they pulled up. I think he was about 14 at this point. And him and his dad pulled up, and he walked in and said, Dad showed me your emails. You are crazy. I'm living with him. And he took everything, even the guitar I just bought him, even his bear, he'd had from like a week old. And they left. They drove away. And I remember thinking, there's nowhere left to fall. I'm going to have a planned, elegant, nervous breakdown. I'm going to go into the middle of nowhere, into a cabin, because the only one in common with this whole life is me. What am I doing? What am I not doing? Who am I being? Who am I not being? Like, what is going on? And we can call that like a dark night of the soul. And for about 5-6 months, I didn't hear a word from my son. And I did my inner work. And this is how I really discovered this intimate relationship with myself. Because when I looked in, I'm like, you're a loser. You're a failure. You lost your son. No one likes you. No one believes you. Your purpose is bullshit. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. That's not helping. And so as I began to re-establish communion and union with all these wounded parts of myself, I became so connected to God, to the universe, to myself, to energy, to intuition, to forgiveness, to confidence beyond anybody's fucking opinion of me. It was so freeing and so amazing, so painful, but so freeing. And then one day my son called And he's like, you know what, Mom, I'm really sorry to have hurt you. It was the best I could do. I just knew, not like cognitively, but I knew the only way to create peace was to let Dad 100% win. And I knew you'd be okay. So this is what we need. Let me protect you. I'm like, whoa. So he goes, don't contact me. Don't be on the school emails. Don't exercise your legal rights. Just let me run the show now. Let me have peace. Okay. And because I had done my forgiveness work, I forgave him, forgave me, didn't guilt trip him, didn't abuse, criticize me. I just said, okay, what if this was the path? Let me just allow it. Let me accept it. Let me walk with my heart open. It just looks really weird. Fine. And now it's been almost 3 years where he's been living full-time with his dad. And I don't think his dad's going to be listening to this podcast, but Dad thinks I don't contact him. He tells Dad I don't contact him. Dad has peace. My son has peace. And I talk to my son on Zoom pretty much every week.
When's he going to be 18?
We got 2 more years, JJ. We got 2 more years.
Okay.
And yet we have the best relationship, my son and I, that we've ever had. I see him, of course, from time to time. I pick him up at the end of the street and we go for hamburgers and facials. But like this is my world. So when I say I know how to feel crappy feelings inside, yeah, that's how I learned. You don't have to have anything near as catastrophic or challenging as this to do the work. But there is a place, and I can 100% stand with 100% guarantee that if you're willing to love, and maybe you don't start with love, maybe you have to start with acceptance, or at least start with putting down the 2x4 and no more hitting little you over the head, but do the work, because you will find unconditional love of self. You know, most of us say, oh, sure, I love myself unconditionally, except when I such and such. Well, then that's called conditional love. Let's be clear. Can you love your wobbly, insecure, ashamed self as much as your triumphant, best-selling author, multimillionaire self? Can you? If you can, then you've achieved self-love. Then you're at the vibration of actually receiving it and being a leader and an inspiration, because that's what you're embodying. That's literally the vibration you're putting out. And I'm not saying we're supposed to be perfect, but can we continually come home to self?
I think that's the journey for everyone. And I'm sure you probably agree with that, right? So it's all about that self-love piece, that self-acceptance, and being challenged on our journey. And while I did know most of your story, thank you for sharing that. I was there for some of it, and I have watched it. But when your son said, "Let me take care of this," that's a blessing to trust and to say, he kind of represented source for me in that moment to say, I got this. You can let go. You don't have to protect me. I'm fine. And everything will be fine if you surrender.
Yes.
And allow it to be. And I think that sometimes people don't allow themselves to let's talk. Really, we all manifest ways in which we have to hold on to control until we can't any longer. We literally create the situations in our lives to push up against the wall until you've run out of options and you have no choice but to give up action control. And I'm listening to you talk about that relationship with yourself, and I haven't gone through it quite as catastrophic. That I've recently had a divorce, and I did get kicked out of my house, not obviously because I got kicked out, but because she sold the house, and that was unwanted. And in retrospect, it's been super hard on an emotional level and on a physical level. The doctor called today to tell me that my hemoglobin is way below, and that we're looking at, I'm very close to blood transfusion, iron transfusion time, which I knew. I wasn't surprised. So when she said, I said, I know. She probably thought, well, why haven't you done anything about it? And it's not that I haven't done anything about it. I'm on my own hero's journey too, where I'm in transition, and parts of it suck, but I'm embracing and taking in what I can do and what I'm called to do at different stages of this situation. And so I, between all of that stuff and having my family years ago sort of disown me, not my immediate family, my mother, father, but my extended family. And so that was sort of the beginning of my, let's not care what other people think of you. Like, your family literally has has said, no more, we want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And here I am now with a family of a community of people who I've attracted, who are in alignment. And I only got there because I got to the place where I didn't care what people thought of me, and that I had to accept myself for who I was in order for me just to live. Forget like making a business. It was like literally just in order for me to feel good in my body and on this earth, I have to honor who I am. Like, I think we get pushed to the point in which you have to say, this doesn't feel good. I need to feel good. What am I doing to create a situation where I don't feel good? And I'm the one doing it.
Yes.
It's that constant giving up of power. And when it comes to circle back into the topic today, to circle back into that vulnerability, that intimacy, and to feel delicious. I mean, people are listening to this and they're thinking, when you're in your ugliest, most broken, full of shame place, how on earth do I feel delicious in that moment, in my body, in my life?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like, I don't know how many definitions there are of snow, right? In the Inuit language, or how many definitions are there of love? Well, it's sort of like this with delicious. There's a deliciousness that's not maybe wild, kinky, orgasmic delicious. It's not maybe like chocolate sundae or a chocolate truffle delicious. But there's something very delicious that happens when you stop fighting yourself, criticizing yourself, abandoning yourself, and rejecting yourself. And that little you looks over his or her shoulder. You really mean it? You're here to stay? You're willing to sit with me in the dark, in this closet, for eternity? If it takes that long because you love me that much? That's a delicious exhale. That's a delicious homecoming. It's a different kind of delicious. I get that. But there is a wave, head to toe, I promise you, of energy, of homecoming bliss, of communion and union, of coherence, of empathy, of love that will wash through your body if you let it when you come home to yourself. There is a moment when you can look in the mirror and instead of going, wrinkle there, cellulite there, that's not good, suck your, and then you're like, stop. And you're like, hey, body, maybe turn the light off and light a candle. Maybe sit down. Hey, body, I am so sorry that every time I ever connect with you, I'm cruel. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. And you literally just put your hand on your thighs and you infuse your body with love. I remember I've been a pole dancer. I'm not right now, but I studied for a good 6-7 years. And I remember when they would teach me to stretch, just to stretch, I wasn't allowed to reach for my ankle. I had to touch my thigh with 2 hands and my knee and then my calf and then my ankle. I had to connect and not try to be sexy and try to get the guy and be sexier than her. No competition, just connection. And I started to cry. I think I probably cried for the first 6 months of my classes because I was so disconnected from my body. The only time I ever looked at it, it was not good enough, not sexy enough, not thin enough, not strong, not enough. And if you can have a moment of deliciousness when you just put 2 hands on your body and go, hey, sweet body, hi. Your body, instead of going, stop the criticism, it'll be like, really? You're here to just be with me? And then that exhale will happen again. Oh, thanks. Well, let me tell you why I've been giving you pain here, or iron issues here, or headaches, or whatever. I've been trying to talk to you. Thank you, body. And then you'll have this wave of energy. And I say it's a delicious homecoming energy. And the exact same deliciousness happened to me a couple nights ago. I'm up in Canada right now on sabbatical. I'm right on the ocean. So when I'm done working, I get on my paddleboard at sunset. And the other day I was out there paddleboarding and JJ, it was so beautiful that I just decided to let beauty have its way with me. Penetrate me, beauty. Just take me now. And I just let the energy that I've learned to surrender into on the inside, I allowed the beauty of nature to just bliss me out. And it welled me up with tears. I'm like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And it even just tears me up now. Like, I created this after all I've been through, all I've let go of, and all I've given. finally given to me. I gave myself a working sabbatical, and I am on a paddleboard in exquisite beauty in nature because I created this. I loved myself enough. And so that's another not bound, chicka, bound, delicious moment. But God, it was a delicious moment. And I let myself have them in all the flavors of deliciousness. And I love the sexual ones, and I love the bound, chicka, bound ones. I love chocolate. I love a great glass of wine. I have all sorts of different flavors. But it's like, how could I allow deliciousness here? What deliciousness wants to come through and heal me, take me home, reconnect me here? Delicious can even be bold. What delicious truth have I been unwilling to speak in this moment, in this situation? And when we allow the delicious energy to come with truth, the heart tends to stay open. A lot of times when it's finally ready to speak your truth, you're kind of shutting your heart and you're being a little righteous because you've been suppressing your truth for so long. But when you say, open the heart, what delicious truth am I unwilling to stuff any longer? And it comes through an open heart. That's called fierce love, not emasculating anger. So yeah, embrace delicious in all the flavors.
I think it's even best to, as you were saying, I love chocolate and wine and sex as well. But the problem, right, with those things is we put the ownership of the deliciousness in the thing.
Yeah.
And the idea of finding deliciousness in your body, in your emotions, in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your beingness on a regular basis, all of a sudden puts the power inside.
Thank you.
Puts that in a place where now we're really filling our cup internally to support us, and these external things that we use to numb ourselves or to enjoy. Of course, I agree with you. We enjoy, but do we enjoy them or do we use them in place of? And in order for us, I think, to get to that place where we are in communion with ourselves on a level where there is peace, where there is open heart, where there is fearless love, where there is belief, where there is trust and surrender. Today, Doug and I we do a practice when we were in the other house, and we haven't really done it since we've moved. We've had guests and we were moving and unpacking, and this week has been the first week that we did it. And today was the second day, and there was this, there's just this reconnection to being able to put back in the things that we've been ignoring, the things that we have relied on external things to do, the reminder, the surrender. We were doing our exercise, and I get the best ideas. I'm in flow when I'm rollerblading near the beach, and I'm listening to music, and my subconscious or my conscious brain is busy listening to music. And so my subconscious is like, hey, now you can hear me. So my body, everything's like working and busy, so it can't distract me. And all of a sudden I have this clear channel of ideas. And I realized that I felt like it was really important for me to talk about with this community, the idea of, and we've been talking about this entire time in different ways, the idea of knowing versus embodying, the idea of really, what is trust? How do we get there? And today with this conversation, it's that, looking at your body, looking at your experiences, your emotions, as your moment to moment life expression as an opportunity, and how to transform that into one that creates a feeling of deliciousness, even when it's not. And even when you're leaning into the negative emotions or the fears or anything that's coming up. And one of the things that you just said that sparked this thought that I know you and I have both learned together at different times, like in certain workshops, Sex, Passion, and Enlightenment, David Deda's work, Satya and Raja, Warrior Sage, all the things that with like having an open heart, that is probably, to me, one of the easiest ways for people to sort of get the concept in a real way when they're feeling wounded, when they're feeling that shame, when they're feeling, looking, like you mentioned about the different body signals that we have, like rather than run, numb, to say, hey, body, what are you trying to tell me? What is it that you aren't feeling? You mentioned, what is it that I'm not expressing? And I thought of everyone that has anxiety, and some people are ready to hear that. And when they're ready to hear that, It means they're ready to take action on that. And some people aren't ready to hear that because they're too afraid of what that means.
Mm.
But I think along the journey, no matter where you are and what level it's at for you, keeping your heart open and, again, taking the opportunity to reframe this life experience when it isn't feeling so good in that moment, to reframe that as an opportunity to feel delicious and to create connection with yourself.
Yeah, it's so well said. For those more scientific minded, I would encourage you to check out Heart Math, and they have this little device you can hook up with your phone and bring your heart into coherence so that you can actually see it. You can see the vibration has changed. You can see the energy has actually changed, and of course, you can feel when your heart is open or not, to yourself and to others. So I even have like a home study program called Heart Splayed Wide Open. This is like such a fundamental key. And I'll just maybe give a short little story so you can get an idea of how, again, I learned through experience. Because I'm the same. I was like, my heart's open. No, it wasn't. So there's my mother, and she's dead. And I had earplugs in because she was like, ah, and then not breathing, and I couldn't sleep. And so the nurse came in and said something to me, and I took the earplugs out. She's dead. And just the shock. And then looking at her, it's very different to see somebody dead than sleeping. It looks the same, but it's different. And I just remember in that moment, it was a choice moment. Are you going to shut your heart or leave it open, or, open it up? Yes, we'll be out by noon. Yes, you can take her organs. Okay. But then I just looked at her and I just said, oh, and I just opened my heart, and it was the most pain I'd ever felt. She was the one that saw me. Dad didn't, sister didn't, ex-husband didn't, court didn't. She did, and she's gone. Open my heart. The pain is like, I think I'm going to die. Keep open my heart. 1 potato, 2 potato, like 3, 4 breaths. Just keep my heart open. Keep my heart open. And then all of a sudden, I swear, JJ, about 5 seconds later, this peace beyond words washed through my body. I wouldn't say it was delicious or it wasn't orgasmic. It was just like otherworldly peace. And I'm convinced it happened because I was willing to keep my heart open in the most painful moment I'd ever experienced. And then next weekend was my sister's wedding. We pretended mom was on vacation. We all got very drunk. I got pregnant. 9 months later, there I am, and I'm birthing my son, and he's on my chest for the very first time. This little guy's looking in my eyes for the very first time, and it is like, oh, there's only one moment like this. This is the first moment ever you're ever going to look in your kid's eyes, and I'm like not going to miss this moment. And they were like, I was still birthing the placenta, and there was tons of people in the room, and like I had all the reasons to keep my heart closed and just whatever, focus. But I'm like, no, open to the bliss. Oh my God, this is so much bliss. Oh my God, this is so much bliss. And I just stayed present, and I kept my heart open, and somehow the placenta got birthed and people did whatever they did, but I was there. And then this is the crazy part. The very same full body sensation of this oneness, this complete washing of oneness came through my body. And instantly I made the connection. Whoa. That's the same feeling I got through death. And then instantly I saw the shape of a heart. Instantly I had this total awareness of how life was. It's not about being good, doing it right, and being happy. It's about just being. It's just about experiencing. And I saw a heart. On one side of the heart was this path of pain of mom's death, but it came down to the bottom where the bliss was, the oneness was, right? The full body love. And then the other side of the heart was like the bliss of a new baby being born. But it came down to the same place. And I thought, okay, so if I can keep my heart open in the best of times and in the worst of times, I can stay connected to truth, to love, to source, to the divine, to the oneness that I truly be. And that really anchored in my path of intimacy, vulnerability, feeling delicious in your body, and the connection that embodiment, being in our bodies, being in our open hearts, has as a fundamental foundation for us to live this way on a challenging planet. But we got this if we can keep our heart open.
I think that's beautiful. And I love this conversation to illuminate people into understanding the connection, again, intellectually, but understanding and feeling through this conversation how maybe to start doing that. There have been so many conversations around depression, around anxiety, around repetitive patterns, around weight gain. And underneath all of that is this.
Yeah.
It's the disconnection of this.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I'm bringing this conversation up in all of these different podcasts that I do is because it isn't about sex. It isn't about relationships. It isn't about your body or your health, but it is about all of it.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's all connected. And we're either connected or disconnected. Our heart's either open or closed. And again, we can have that conversation from the intellect and talk about shame. And I'm thinking of Brene Brown's work, and there's a lot of, head conversation. There's a lot of great examples of how to come out of that. But we're boiling this down even beyond into simplicity, into literally, like you said, about heart math. And I would say that's one of the reasons why when I do my manifestation challenges, part of my work is to help people get into feeling, utilizing tools to get out of your head and get into your body, and to be in that connected, aligned state, and then just surrender and allow it to be and follow the impulse and experience joy and allow yourself to receive, because it's something that most people don't do and don't do often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Fist pump on that one, sister.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And if I had to, I'm going to add a few ideas about, again, just the physical sensation. If you have any more to offer, I would love them after I give this example. But for those of you, there's getting into a somewhat of a relaxed, I'm not going to say relaxed meditative state, because obviously we can't live our lives in meditation. You live your life outside of meditation when you're connecting with the world. But there is something to be said about connecting with your body. And so whether it be through meditation, I love to use the guided visualizations that I've created for the Manifestation Challenge, but I also do this in exercise when I work with people. I can't ever explain, until you work with me, I can't ever explain what I do with exercise. But those of you that have been to my events, you understand how literally I mean we connect your brain to your body through each muscle from head to toe in a real sense, really waking up and connecting on a different level. So however you do that, whether it be through exercise or meditation, getting into the space where you're in communication with your body so that you can sense when, let's say, my heart is closed, because what that might feel like for some people is where your chest is tight, where your stomach is in knots, where your neck is now getting tight, or your lower back might cramp up. But we have a clenching happening somewhere. Most likely it's the heart, but maybe it's the heart and the gut. Maybe you have digestive issues, you have irritable bowel syndrome, you're having diarrhea, something, constipation. But there's a clenching, there's a not releasing of the in and the out, the breath, the chi, so to speak, this deliciousness feeling that we're talking about. And so if you are connected to your body, you are more aware, because your body will tell you when you're not there. So if you can get there, again, on a physical sensation, just check in with yourself a couple times a day and see if your heart's open, see if you're breathing through, or if you're clenching, or if you're holding, or if you're stuffing, if you're stiff and tight in different areas of your body, or you're disrupted, you're not in balance, you're not in flow. So for me, those are some of the physical things to keep in mind. Do you have anything to add to that?
100%. I'm in agreement with you. And I, even today, as I am still almost 50 and wanting to be in great shape, I'm noticing the years of the clenching of the lower back and the clenching of the hip muscles and the clenching of the shoulders, and then put on the happy face. And now I'm more aware. I'm like, oh, you can put your shoulders down. We're fine. You can relax those hip muscles. We're fine. So it's still a practice for me to this very day. I would just add this one simple way to begin and end your day. I like to put one hand on my heart and one hand on my yoni, or you can put on your belly, whatever feels comfortable. And you just simply breathe and ask a question. You can maybe say, hi, sweet self, or hi, sweetheart, or hi, sweet body. Tell me what I haven't slowed down enough to hear. I'm listening. And then just be, and just listen. And if you just do that for a minute or two, bookending your day, maybe it will speak to you in words, maybe in images, maybe in emotions, maybe in a body sensation, but it will begin to speak to you. And that can begin this relationship and then take it to the next level, like JJ was saying.
I'm laughing silently because I have a more mental, right? Like practice, not for me, but one of the things that I want people to identify. I think we talked about earlier on in the show about how we don't really have a language for emotions, and we don't have, or not a language, we don't have a practice. We don't have a, and I would agree with that and say that I use nonviolent communication and looking at needs and feelings. And most of the time people get stuck in their feel. Like the reason why they're afraid of feeling is because they don't know what to do about it or with it. And it's very scary. So I teach a practice with nonviolent communication work that I've been doing for years, and it includes, and it's a little more analytical, and I know that, and I recognize that, and I always tell people I want you to feel your feelings, and then after you've expressed and released them, now let's look at what the problem is, because we only have negative emotions when we have a need, a perceived need is not being met. So we want to problem solve it so that way it doesn't happen again, because people keep repeating the same patterns over and over again because they have no awareness of what it's connected to. It's just like, oh, but I feel this. Okay, great. What is the need? Let's get the need met, and all of a sudden it goes away and they'll stop happening. So I'm chuckling because this practice that you're doing is about the feeling and connecting with the body, which I love and want everyone to do. In fact, I will say do that first. And then if you aren't coming up with that sort of what to do about it, what is it? What do you want me to know? If at that point you're feeling like you need a little bit more help, then maybe you put in the nonviolent communication practice of the 3 steps. But I think it's more important to start with the practice you just said, because A, you're touching yourself. So that electrical wave that you're creating throughout your body, and that connection from your hands and all, and your organs and your spine and your chakras, all of that gets connected just by touching yourself. And the stillness and the meditation of waiting for the answer puts us in a place of receiving. So I love that. And I'm going to steal it. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to borrow it. I'll give you credit every time. I'm going to tell everybody in the manifestation group to do it. And I'm sure they will have all listened to the show, so I don't really have to tell them, but I will remind them about it. Now, I know you have so much information and so many things that you do like me, and I want to direct people to a place and through like maybe whether it be the website. I know we talked about your YouTube, like what at this stage of this conversation, to go to the next level, to take it further, to embody it more, where would you send people?
Yeah. Well, there's 2 trainings I'd like to give. And then I have over 2,000 videos on my YouTube channel. So definitely go there and search whatever your challenge is. I'm pretty sure a video is going to pop up. So the YouTube is just my name, Allana Pratt, ALLANAPRATT. And then for ladies, I have a complimentary training about vulnerability. And I call it Vulnerability is the New Sexy. And that's at my site, allanapratt.com. I think that's really going to help you with lowering the walls, opening the heart, but still having that discernment, still having your back. And then for gentlemen, my gentleman's site is gethertosayyes.com, because a lot of great men that are my clients, even just the one right before we got on this call, he's like, Allana, I don't think I know how to feel anymore. And he's willing to actually own it. And he's very powerful and makes a huge difference on this planet, but there's still a disconnection there. So there's a training on my men's site called How to Be a Noble Badass. And noble, we could say, is more the heart energy, and badass is, the impact you're here to make and your sexiness and all the rest of the good stuff. So I think that would be a great training for men. Each of those are complimentary, great places to start. Google the YouTube for whatever challenge you have and let me answer your question. That's what my YouTube channel basically is answering my community's questions. So I'm here for you. And then listen to my podcast because JJ's on it. My podcast is Intimate Conversations. So there's lots of good ones there too.
Well, tell everybody about your podcast.
My podcast is called Intimate Conversations, and it is where it's raw and real to go super deep about people's journeys in intimacy with themselves, with their bodies, with source, and with their beloved.
Excellent. So check that out, everyone. And again, make sure to reach out, find her on YouTube, ALLANA pratt.com when done with the YouTube site, right? And go to the website as well to check out all the different offerings. And Allana, I'm looking forward to our conversation on your show.
Yes.
And of course, to continue our relationship as it is, where it's cyclical, right? Like it comes and then we're always connected on some level, but sometimes more than others. And I'm happy that it's been more recently.
Me too. It's like this awesome DNA spiral. We sort of go away, but never lose connection. And then we come back around again. And so, yeah, thank you for all you are, all you give to this planet, all you be, and for this really delicious conversation. Thank you so much.